welcome here. You are welcome in this, our online worship at the Lake Chapala Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. For today's service, I'm Heidi McLennan, and I'll be your service leader today. Kat Barnett, Roy Haynes, Charlie Jacobs as crew, Michael Reason on piano, and participating remote speakers, Eric Luria, Fred Harlan, and Richard Clark. Richard Clark and Colleen Berry are providing remote tech support, and we're grateful. Linda Jessen and Gerardo Ramos are contributing their talents to the music. We will hold the announcements. We will hold LCUUF Community Circle Wednesday, 11 a.m. at the CDT. Use this Zoom and you'll see that. We will now light our chalice. And if you want to take a few minutes to find a candle or a lighter and a lighter, feel free to light your candles at this particular time. Don't do what I did last week and put the candle under a piece of glass, it cracked. Okay. I hope your candles are lit, and now you will take a few minutes to hear the opening words. I've chosen these words from the prophet Khalil Gibran on children. Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. And though they are with you, yet they belong not to you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. You may house their bodies, but not their souls, for their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. You may strive to be like them, but seek not to make them like you. For life goes not backward nor tarries with yesterday. You are the bows from which your children as living arrows are sent forth. The archer sees the mark upon the path of the infinite, and he bends you with his might, that his arrows may go swift and far. Let your bending in the archer's hand be for gladness, for even as he loves the arrow that flies, so he loves also the bow that is stable. We have hymn number 91, Mother of All. Michael? Each week, we take a few minutes for joys and concerns. We remind ourselves that we belong to a community which cares for each other. We do this by sharing any significant joys or sorrows that come into our lives. Joys that are too great for one heart to hold, sorrows that are too much for one heart to endure. Local and world events which call upon us to bear witness. In our daily sharing, Matt has invited people to email joys and sorrows to be read at our service. Several people have sent them. And if you have a joy or sorrow to share today, you can also type it into the chat area, and we'll try to read these aloud. Notice the word try. I have a joy here and a concern. This one is from Trudy Crippen. Please light a candle of concern for our great niece, Jody, and for her family, as Jody endures the COVID-19 virus far from family, and the same candle in gratitude for Lynn Cleek's sister-in-law for providing support for Jody's mother. And I have that was a concern of Trudy's. And now it's a candle of joy for Kat Barnett. Please light a candle of joy for all of my friends and family who continue to be safe and well when I check in on them. And I would personally like to have a candle lit today for the mother of Ahmad Berry. He is the young man that was shot in Alabama. It's so difficult for any mother to imagine such a thing on this particular day, but a young man out jogging is hunted down, it would appear, by two men who felt he shouldn't be doing that. I share a huge amount of emotion with this kind of tragedy. Please light a candle. We have a candle of concern for Linda's sister, who is in personal care, worked in a senior home in Montreal. In the hearts of love and in the spirit of prayer, we give thanks for the time together, where our joys can be magnified and our sorrows can be lessened. Blessed be. And this candle, the care candle, is provided by our care team, and it represents those sorrows that are too raw, too difficult for us to share aloud. We will light this candle for those sorrows which remain present but left unspoken. This takes us to the offering for today. I would like to say that many of you have asked how to contribute to the LCUUF during these times. Perhaps you want to keep current on your pledge. Perhaps you like what we're doing and you want to support us. Here are two ways to donate. The screen is up there, and I hope that'll be helpful to you. PayPal bill pay through Susan Miller. Contact Lorna Dean if you would like some pesos picked up. Now we will have 3 men from the congregation talk about their mothers, Fred Harland, Eric Luria, and Richard Clark. Fred, are you there for us?
Yes, I am. I hope you can hear me. Good morning, everyone, and happy Mother's Day. My mom, Elfrida Mildred Harland, whose picture you see, died about 45 years ago of stomach cancer at the age of 64. There's so much about Mom that I took for granted, and so much about her that I don't really know and wish I knew. Taking Mom for granted. She raised and cared for 5 kids, me and my twin sister, 2 older children, and a much younger sister. Without the modern conveniences we take for granted. Although we had just got electricity, we never had a fridge or vacuum cleaner. Irons were heated on the stove. Milk and coal were delivered by horse and cart, which also took away our toilet remains. Mom did so much on Dad's minister's salary of a few $100 a year, if indeed we ever got that. But I never thought of us as poor. We always had hot meals, warm clothes, the house was spotless, guests were treated royally. Mom was known for her desserts. Her specialty was Angel's food cake. And Mom also did the thing a minister's wife was expected to do: playing the organ for church, leading the choir, leading a women's Bible study, you name it. And she always made sure that Dad looked the part when he went out. Clean shirts, a straightened tie, pressed shoes, a clean handkerchief. But we took all these things for granted, and there's so much that I wish I knew. For example, I wish I knew Mom when she was growing up. From all accounts, she was a precocious kid, always first in her class at school, gifted in music, playing several instruments, and as the oldest in a family of 10 children, helping her mother raise her brothers and sisters. And I wish I knew Mom when she first married my father, a bright, handsome young minister, when they probably thought they had the whole world in front of them. That is, I wish I knew Mom before life became such a struggle. Before Mom became sick with so little energy. I don't know precisely why she was sick. Perhaps from giving birth to twins, my sister and me. Perhaps she was allergic to dairy and gluten. Perhaps it was this carryover from scarlet fever. And I wish I knew Mom before Dad was asked to leave the church where he was a minister. Asked to leave, apparently, because he was too liberal for his quasi-Pentecostal congregation. And I wish I knew Mom before she started being convinced that Dad was also too liberal for her. And I wish I knew Mom before she wrestled with the notion that, in all likelihood, her husband and her 2 sons would spend the rest of eternity in hell. I wish I knew Mom before she became depressed, before she felt that no one loved her, before she believed that she was about to die, that she had probably cancer. We speculate why she was depressed. Was she at one point sexually abused? Or was she bipolar? So we speculate about the causes of her depression, but the upshot of it is that she asked to be admitted to a mental hospital, where she had shock treatments and was never the same. And now, as I try to make sense of this, I think it changed me in 2 ways. One, making me wary of fundamentalist religion and the harm it causes. And 2, Growing up with two polar opposite views on the truth, my mom's and my dad's, it's pushed me to ask questions, to search for answers, and be a little dubious about the answers I hear. And I also think that it's made me more aware of two things. One, of the enormous struggle some people, some moms, are going through. And two, of how some of us, particularly me, can live with someone and be oblivious to their struggles, their needs, and take for granted their contributions. Thank you.
I always felt like I was brought up in an average, ordinary family. There were my parents, Esther and Harold, and my two younger brothers, Bruce and Mark. And we lived in a very typical, predominantly middle-class neighborhood. When I was 5, my maternal grandmother came to live with us, and it also felt completely normal. She was just part of the family. She stayed with us for the next 15 years until her death, after I had gone off to school. To me, it was just like I was part of a normal, typical family. My mother was always there for us. We all got along extremely well, and there were very infrequent squabbles in our household. She organized many outings, trips, vacations through the years. The holidays were always very special, with large festive meals that my mother put on. She was usually the hostess for these gatherings and put on a great meal. We had a traditional family in that my father ran the business side of the family and my mother ran the household. She was supportive in every aspect of our lives. She was always there for our every need and came to all our activities. She was a good cook and kept our house beautifully maintained inside and out. She enjoyed a colorful yard full of flowers, and we all helped out in the gardening. Her favorite flowers were fire engine red geraniums, with many pots of them in the backyard. These bright red geraniums are still my favorite to this day, and we have many pots. She was very supportive of my father and modeled what a wonderful, caring marriage was all about. I graduated high school and basically left home when I went off to the University of Michigan and then medical school, where I met my wife, Catherine. We had careers which took us to Kentucky, New Mexico, Alaska, and eventually we settled down in Gig Harbor, Washington, near the Seattle area. I was the only one of my brothers who did not remain in Detroit and physically close to my parents. My two brothers became dentists and practiced with my father until he retired. We stayed close, though, by regular phone calls, in visits to Detroit a couple times a year. And after our daughter's birth, my parents regularly came and visited us in Gig Harbor. It was after we made new friends as a married couple that I really appreciated that our family was somewhat unusual and how truly wonderful my parents were. I was shocked by how many of our friends described dysfunctional families with difficult relationships with their parents or siblings. I was surprised how many of my friends had experienced divorce and other painful experiences in the family, and came to realize how fortunate I had been. Not living close by my family, again, who all lived in Detroit, I never fully appreciated how special my mother really was. As an adult, I really knew my mother mostly from trips home, but they are always focused on special family events, like marriages, bar mitzvahs, etc. My parents came out west in the summer to attend a spiritual camp retreat center with us, which is definitely more rustic than my mother would ever normally participate in. But they showed me how flexible they could be and immensely enjoyed their stay, comfortable fitting right in with the activities that were certainly outside my mother's life experience. They even enjoyed all the vegetarian meals. And they only had one requirement, a bathroom in the cabin, since most didn't have one. And that was easily arranged. I remember with particular fondness taking several trips to the Canadian Rockies with my parents, hiking together on the backcountry trails, another side of my mother that I never would have suspected. It was wonderful that my wife had a close relationship with my mother and grandmother. These were without the conflicts you hear friends talk about so often with mother-in-laws. During the last year of my mother's long battle with cancer, we visited Detroit more often and got to see another side of her. She still showed the warmth and caring for family and friends, even though she was certainly physically uncomfortable much of the time. It was when she passed away that I began to really appreciate how special a person she had been. In the Jewish tradition, which I was raised, we sat Shiva. This is the 7 days following the death, in which it's customary for family and friends to come to the house, bring food for meals, and sit around for hours sharing memories and stories about the person who had passed on. I learned so much that I did not know about my mother. That was a really special time. I learned much about how remarkable she was in her caring for family and friends. This is something that you don't appreciate as a child growing up at home. Yes, I thought we were just an ordinary, average family, but now I appreciate just how fortunate I was to have grown up in an extraordinary one and to have been supported by two wonderful parents with so much love. Thank you.
My mother, Maxine Adams Clark, was born as Wilkie Adams, and she was born in 1918 in Oklahoma. It was her mother's second marriage. Her mother, Georgia, was half Comanche from Brazos, Texas. Georgia had married young and later poisoned her cruel first husband with rat poison, buried him in the fields, and then took the children to Oklahoma, where she met and married my grandfather, Bill Adams. Mother was a fraternal twin and shy compared to our outgoing twin sister, Wilma. Mother started reading voraciously when she was young, and this was to lead her out of the small town she was born and raised in. When she was 18, her mother, Georgia, told her that she must marry a local young man. It was in the middle of the Oklahoma Dust Bowl, and people were struggling to survive. Maybe Georgia married her daughter off to help her daughter survive in these tough times. Before she married, she told her prospective husband that he must let her go to college for them to marry. College for a woman was almost unheard of in that era and in that place. Soon after, my brother Tom was born, and soon after that, mother divorced her first husband and transferred to Oklahoma University, where she met my father, Richard Clark. He was in Army ROTC to help pay for his college. They soon got married. Then World War II started, and my father graduated college as an artillery lieutenant. I was born a few days before he shipped off to Europe. He was gone for my first 2 years. Mother's idea of raising children was out of step with the times. She didn't want to be telling me no all the time and squelching my curiosity. So when I was a 2-year-old and started to throw food around from my plate, she didn't say no. Instead, she lined the floor with newspapers. Her parents were aghast. My father, when he returned from Europe, was aghast. When I was 4, I opened a window screen and climbed out the window and ran down the street, shedding clothes along the way. She simply followed me, picking up the clothes as she went. Later, I came to understand that she really encouraged me to believe in myself. This has been one of my biggest assets ever since. It was a great gift. She also encouraged curiosity and questions. She would say, "The grandest answer to he who asks the grandest question." She spent most of her life supporting herself, for which she was not prepared. After she divorced my father, things were hard for many years. She didn't participate in my school life much at all because of the difficulties she had with her own life, I think. For example, I played high school football and she was never at a game watching her son. She also never asked me if I had done my homework. So guess what? I never did. I regretted that deeply later. Many, many years later, when she was 91, she passed. She was living with my daughter as a caregiver. When she died, a friend of my daughter had a dream. In this dream, Mother was being carried out on a palanquin through a crowd. She was waving to everyone, saying, "I'm out of here." I did the memorial service for her by the ocean in Northern California. All the family was there. We put her ashes in the Pacific Ocean. That was the last time I saw many members of my family.
Our closing words for today are called, it comes from a poem written by Margaret William Braxton, member of the Arlington Street Church in Boston. And it starts this way. Once upon a time, I was. Now I am. Someday I will become. Once there was, and now there is. Soon there will be, and someday there surely shall be. Once upon a time, we were. Now we are. And someday, hallelujah, we shall surely become. Please stay around if you like for discussion. We will start with small groups of about 6, and you can turn on your cameras and unmute yourselves. I think Matt will, after the prelude by Michael. What? We need the camera turned around. Oh. Okay. One of my favorite pieces.
Good morning, everybody. The song I'm about to play, I think, is very appropriate for Mother's Day. We've all had a mother, and whether your mother is still alive or whether she has passed on, I think the lyrics of this song, and I'm just going to change one word that will make it very relevant for Mother's Day. Here are the first verse, the lyrics of the first verse. I needed a shelter of someone's arms. There you were. I needed someone to understand my ups and downs. There you were. With sweet love and devotion, deeply touching my emotion, I want to stop and thank you, Mother. I want to stop and thank you, Mother. How sweet it is to be loved by you.
Thank you, Michael. And we got a little bit ahead of ourselves. So at this point, we'll talk about distinguishing the chalice. It seems quite appropriate after that beautiful piece. Thank you so much, Michael. And here we are, Matt and everyone. Let us extinguish our chalice with these words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we keep in our hearts and share with all the world. Don't forget to stay around for some coffee.